Hi, I'm Larry Curtis, President and Managing Partner of Winn Development Company. Winn Development is a company that develops historic properties throughout the country. As the most visible element of the mill, clock towers serve as the centerpiece, visually, of what these mills were and what they are. They're also the first to erode because they're built of wood, not of brick. So the rebuilding of it, the rebuilding of the balustrades, the rebuildings of the cupola, yes, the rebuildings of the mechanisms, the clock mechanisms, all together enable not just the physical rehabilitation of the clock tower, which of course is important, but symbolically it reinforces the completion of a mill complex that we've worked on now at Winn Companies for 16 plus years.
Some of the things that really needed work here, there was rehab to the clock and belfry, I want to say probably about 10 or 12 years ago. And they stopped and started in strange places, and in those locations, more decay had set in over the last 10 or 12 years. So we were asked first to concentrate on that. The clock faces needed a little bit of work, especially the southern, south-facing one. Overall, it really became a siding replacement, but a siding repair and replacement, and a complete trim replacement.
We started ripping these off because you can see it is you have some bond. Somebody repair it, and come for that is the wood is rotted out. And we kept going until we find some good stuff. Like that one is good. We stopped, and I had to take that bolt off to replace.
Oh, the tie-in.
The tie-in, yeah, because you see the 2x6 is
pretty rotten.
It's pretty rotten here, and you can tell he's been. Some people's been here replacing.
Yeah, those are patched in.
Yeah,
right?
patched in. Yeah, we had to find out exactly where he goes to first to figure it out.
Which one is the original one?
This one is the original one. This one is.
Yeah.
And this one is.
You can. The things that are sistered on.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell. This is a 2x4. This one is a 2x4 too.
Yeah.
You can tell is the original ones.
This lumber was probably, dead green, if not dead green, then close to it when it was stood up here. So it was soaking wet. And when those nails got driven in, they create gigantic holes. Eventually, when the timbers dried out, so did some of the sheathing. Those holes became elongated. You can actually see them over there. And the thousands of nails are here just let in a ton of water, more than it should have gone in here. It is really what caused a lot of this decay. These are the original studs, and you can see, I mean, this thing is, 2/3 of it's gone across its width. The clock faces were part of the rehab program. The other two, the north and the west facing ones, were in pretty good shape, but this one here, it's basically new from about here, about 3 o'clock to around 7 o'clock. That quadrant basically we had to replace and replicate. It appears that these things were repaired or replaced at some point. I want to say maybe in the 80s sometimes with some of the major renovations that went on, but a lack of flashing and a few other minor details caused issues, and once the water got in there, basically took it apart. These pieces were milled in our shop, which is in Ringe, and we brought them over here and put them back together. This top section, this bottom piece here, to make the face of the clock, the flat stock the same way. The numbers were part of the 1980s renovation, and all we did was clean them up and repainted them. The paintwork it kind of threw us for a loop a little bit early on, because we thought it was somebody's attempt to seal up, some bad siding. But as it turns out, it's a historic detail, and depending on what you use, most of the time there's an aggregate of some sort, typically sand, like beach sand, cast into the wet paint to give the flat surface a stone look. And I guess it was quite common back in the day, you know, to take some ordinary building materials and try to make them look like they might be granite or marble or something like that. We were lucky in that the painting contractor was able to get the manufacturer to actually put this aggregate in the paint, and they rolled on there's 2 coats here on the new and old, and it's a pretty good match. I knew about using flat boards like this to make you know, wood buildings look like they might be built out of stone. That was pretty common, but I never saw this textured paint. I'd like to think that when we get done, it'll look like it was supposed to look at some point in history, you know, at some point in time, from it's 150 years old or whatever. And that, you know, that 20 years from now, it looks just as good as it does today.